my topic is about tools that could help you to target newer SDK and improve capability. Yeah, if you are in the warm room, you still have some time to change. Yeah, if not, please close the door. Okay. Yep, I'm Fung Lam, Developer Relations Engineer in Google in Android. I work in Android platform for 5 years. So my major work is to ensure the apps in the market are ready for the next version of Android. That means, if your app is important but it's not working, then that means we may have to delay our rollout of Android release, which quite often you see we may have some delay. But yep, that's my major work. I work on app capability in Android platform in Android app well. And I know this is not an interesting or happy topic, a topic to make you happy, because every year we have a lot of required work, and that's usually it must be so painful for developer to target the latest version of Android. Yeah, I know you hate it. I hate it also, but there is some reason. Yeah, I don't want you to hate me. I'm not an engineer make the change. I'm definitely here to help you. Don't hate me. Yeah, but there are some reasons why we are making those changes in Android, and there's some reason why we must have developer to target a newer API or SDK version in Android release. So in every year, there are a few stages when we roll out a new SDK or API level. The first one is stage 1 during the Android DP or beta. So you could fetch your device or join the Android beta program to try the Android 15, or very soon you will be able to try the Android 16 to test the API. Yeah, that's important, but usually a very small population of developer or user will be doing this. Another one is this phase 2. That means, actually it's the actual release of the Android 15 like 2 months ago, and device in the market will be receiving OTA, or there will be new device launching in the market. So likely developer or PM will be paying more attention, because there are user feedback say that the app is not working, or Samsung is coming to us say, my app is not working on Samsung device. Why? Because they didn't do testing in phase 1, and so it's happening in phase 2. But what make the situation worse is we have phase 3. Phase 3 is there is a pay policy enforcement usually 1 year after the Android release. That means, in August 2024, you have to target at least Android 14, which launched in 2023. So a lot of developers didn't do that thing, and I will tell the story more on later. But what is the drawback if you are not targeting the latest version of Android? So this is something on Play Store, this is something on Android, but Android and Play are usually together. So if you are not targeting the latest version of Android, you could not publish an app or publish an app update on Google Play Store. That you must be aware of, right? However, there is another drawback like, my app is still working, just let it there, I don't want to do the app update. What if I didn't update for 2 years? Then your app will not be visible to the user using the new device. That means your app will not be getting new user on the new Android versions. That will be a major drawback. So that's why, this is something Google Play to force developer to target the latest SDK version. To target the latest SDK version, there are a few stages. Stage 0 is, actually I haven't started. My app is still targeting Android 14. I haven't done any testing. How many of you are in stage 0? No? Good. 1? Or 2? More? Why? Android 15 has launched already. You still haven't. There are a few more stages like, I didn't do the code change and I test on Android 15. We will say, I didn't do a code change, my app should work as normal, right? No. Your app there is a potential your app will not be working in Android 15. I will talk about those in coming slides. The stage 1, stage 2 is, if my app is not breaking, then I could start targeting Android 15 with some code change. So that's stage 2. How many of you are in stage 1 or stage 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. So after that, after testing, of course, is launch and production, right? So I have tested, and later I could push this on Google Play, ideally is first I publish in a test track or beta track before hitting all the users. So stage 3 is launched in beta, stage 4 is in production. How many of you are already Android 15 ready and are in production? Yeah, 1. Yeah, 2. Yeah, more. No. Okay, why? Who are the others? iOS developer, why you are here? Why not using it? But like, these are different stage of readiness. These are important. Start early, because if you start late, for example, if you start after the Google Play policy enforcement, there's no way for you to roll back to target a lower SDK level. You have to target a newer SDK level, even you know your app is crashing. Although there are some workarounds, but I'm not telling you today. Yep. Yeah, some developer, actually like every developer are deadline fighters. Yep. And so a lot of developers only update their app target SDK level when it is almost or after the pay policy deadline. We have seen this. We have seen increasing number of crash around or after the pay policy deadline. And so, yeah, we are seeing the crashes, and because they just don't do it early. And yep, I mentioned, even if I don't change my code, even if I don't change my target SDK level, my app could be broken. Why? Because there are so many behavior change. There are 2 kinds of behavior change. One are target SDK gated, which means only take effect if you target a newer SDK level. But there are also long-gated change. That means as long as your app is running on a newer version, no matter it is targeting Android 4 or Android 14, yep, the same behavior applies. And this is what you hate most, because this is why you have to do the code change. Yep, we have a very, very long list. Yeah, I don't know if you will prefer any of those, but yep, if you go to developer.android.com, we have a very long list. Yep, you can see, there are changes that only target Android 15 or changes that is applied for all apps. And why we are doing this is because for some cases like this one, for example, is about security. If you are making HTTP, HTTPS, I think you must be familiar with TLS or SSL. So there are few standards which are no longer secure. So it has been deprecated, and we have to remove it in the system. Otherwise, we know it is not secure, but we still need developer to use it, and we just means we are putting the user in danger. That doesn't make sense. So in Android, we always have API deprecation and API removal that is related to security. For example, like this one, TLS 1.0 and 1.1 that was deprecated in 2021, a few years ago. So it is not secure. We don't recommend user to use it, so we make it to be deprecated, not recommend. And a few years after deprecation, we remove it from the system. So actually, no apps will be using this 2 outdated security standard. Something could happen is, the developer say, if TLS 1.1 or 1.0 is not available, let's fall back to SSL. However, SSL is also being removed has been removed in previous Android. So they may see, an exception. Why there's like an exception, SSL Wi-Fi is not supported? It's because, they fall back to a protocol. A protocol has been deprecated even earlier. So I know for engineer, you say, if the thing is working, don't touch it. But for security, no, you have to regularly review, make sure you are using an up-to-date standard. Yep, so this is a change that affects all apps running on Android 15. That means what I've mentioned, even you do not make any code change, even you are targeting Android 14, if your app is using TLS running on Android 15, your app will crash. There are also some other area on Android improvement that we want user to move. For example, in Android, we have seen the phone having larger and larger screen size. If you remember 10 years ago, our screen size is like 4 to 3 aspect ratio, a smaller one. Now it's a bigger one. We want app to utilize the area, the surface area of the screen. So we make some change like edge to edge. But the adoption is edge to edge is still low. Or like from a user perspective, they may be confused. Why these apps utilize the space, but that app don't utilize the space? So the UX is not quite well in that case. So starting from Android 15, we also have some changes in edge-to-edge enforcement, UI enforcement. Now also like some change is not start from Android, it's start from Java. So if you are a Java developer, there was Java 1.4, Java 5, Java 7, Java 8, different version of Java. They also add new API in Java, and they may change the internal implementation of Java. So in Android, actually for every Android release, we try to catch up with the Java standard. So in Android 15, we catch up with the JDK, OpenJDK 17 standard. So you may find that, oh, my method, the return value was like A in the past. Why, when I target Android 15, the return value changed? It's because the Java internal implementation changed. So for example, there's one good example here, like the Java, newer Java, they support, or they have a different support of the locale. Like there's always some country or some changes about the locale. So we follow that standard, and that is target SDK gated. So that means I think not many users care about locale, but that is something that could break your app also. And lastly, a big area is about the battery. For developer, I know it's painful, but for us, we also receive a lot of feedback say, oh, my phone battery could not last for a day. And for many years, Android are adding more and more restriction in the foreground and background surface just to make sure the apps are not doing so many background tasks pulling in the background and consume all the battery. So this is also something to improve the UX to make the user have a better user journey. Yep, I'm not going to detail because the focus is why we are having this change, not what you should focus on to handle this change. And also there are like some apps may launch another apps in the background, or some apps may suddenly prompt a window of advertisement. So that is also harming the user, or like is a malware app. So we also have some security improvement on target SDK level. So these are the reasons why you hate targeting the latest version of Android. And yeah, all this example takes a very long time for you to adopt, and everything could take longer than you think. So let's come to tooling. What tools do we have to help you to target the latest version of Android? Yeah, that is the important part. This covers 3 areas. The first is about when you code. The second is how you test. And the third is when you publish. So in Android Studio, we have a tool called SDK Upgrade Assistant. Yep. So in the top like tool, yeah, you could click SDK Upgrade Assistant. So in different Android Studio version, we support different version of Android, like from Android K, currently is Android Studio K, currently is Android Studio L, Ladybug, and it supports the SDK Upgrade Assistant for Android 14 to Android 15. If you click on it, it will scan your project and tell you, hey, these are the changes in Android 15 that could be related to your app. That means you may have to take attention of this, but oh, this is a long list, I don't want to read them, or it's difficult to read. Is that a better way? Yes. So in Android, we also have the Android Studio link check. For the first time, yep, you can see if I just update my target SDK version from 32 to 35 is a red line, not a yellow line this time. A red line means, oh, you could not build your application until you resolve it. How do you resolve it? Or it's a very, very long dialogue telling you, hey, normally we don't just update the number in the manifest, there are some code change. Of course, you could click override at no, I've read this, but I want you to read more. So this is like the first gate to prevent you to just update the SDK level without the code change, because that could crash your app. And there are more link chat available. Like if this piece of code actually it runs well on Android 10, Android 11, but it doesn't. But if I update my target SDK version in manifest, then there will be a yellow line, a warning to me. And if I click on this warning, it will have more information. Say, hey, apps targeting Android 12, they must have an additional parameter. Say that mutable or immutable in when you are creating pending intent. So it helps you like, oh, if you are aware of the warning, it's a warning, but this warning will have a tooltips to help you to migrate. But say, actually, I know I should make some change, but I don't know how I could make this change. Should I choose mutable or immutable? I just don't know, right? So there is also a new tool. This is a Gen AI generation. So we have the Gemini in Android Studio. Actually, I could just highlight this piece of code and say, oh, I know the resolution is not good, so I actually copy and paste it, have a bigger version. Help me fix the highlighted code. And then it will tell you, oh, this code is using a pending intent. However, pending intent is some change. You should use mutable or immutable. And it also gives you more information about when you should use mutable or immutable, like it's smaller, but Gemini in Android Studio is something new to help you to target or to handle the breaking changes when you target the newer SDK version. So please try it. I know Gemini, normally the answer is not perfect. I know because I'm using it. But try it and provide us feedback if you use it. Sometimes they may reference, like for this one, they reference an answer in Stack Overflow. If the answer in Stack Overflow is not perfect, then it may not give you a perfect answer. So that's the reason. It's not perfect. And after coding, there is also like testing, because in Android, I think every developer in their project has a lot of dependency. Like, oh, if I write the code, I know how to fix it. But what if the change affected is in my dependency? I'm using some SDK, so the code, the link check is not visible to me. How do I know? I have to run it, I have to test it. There is a tool called compatibility framework in Android, which I could enable or disable some changes in any Android release. For example, the previous one about the pending intent, if I don't handle it, I run it on Android 12 or above, then it will throw an exception for me. Oh, I know it's an exception, but I have no idea which behavior change is affecting it. So I go to the compatibility framework, I could find out, oh, actually there is a change about pending intent. I could turn it off and run it again. If it's worse, that means, oh, actually my apps is affected by this behavior change. Similarly, I could do the reverse, like, oh, there are many changes upcoming. Am I going to be affected by any of the upcoming changes? I could still target the older version and then turn on the compatibility framework to turn on the upcoming change one by one to see if I'm going to be affected by the change in the future. You may say, oh, there is a long list, a lot of buttons. There's no search. Search is, I have that feature request. This is still in development. But sorry, currently there's no search in the screen. I know it's painful. But how could we do better, easier? Actually, we support ADB command to turn it on or turn it off. You just ADB shell am compat enable the change ID and your package name. How do I know the change ID? So you could go back to the developer.android.com, our deck. So we have the long list of different changes. With the browser provide you the search function, so you can find out which change or which keyword, find a change by the keyword. But this is like, oh, there are so many changes in Android 15. If I want to enable one or disable one, or like, oh, my app is affected, I'm not sure if it's affected by change A or change B, this is a good starting point for you to turn on or turn off specific feature in Android 15. Of course, there's the first testing. Second testing is some change are related to UI or last screen, but I know the foldable devices are still very expensive. No, I just don't have the money to buy a physical device to do the testing. Emulator works, but is slow, or like I rely a lot of the native library, so emulator does not work in my case. So we also have the Android device streaming. So in Android Studio, you could connect to a device farm in our lab. So it's just like remote connection. You connect to a physical device full internet and you could do testing. We support a lot of devices, although currently mainly Google device and Samsung device, but we are also working with other OEMs like Xiaomi or others to add more device into the Firebase Test Lab and Android Studio. So very soon you'll be able to test more and more device in Android device streaming. Yep, and after that is publishing. So I do the code, I make the code change, I test it, but there is still a chance my app will black and white because like the test environment and the production environment could be different. So if you're aware of this, recently in Google I/O we announced there's a Google Play pre-review check. So that is when you upload the package to Google Play Store. Before the package sent for review, the Google Play console will extract your package to look into your code. Say, for example, there is a change about schedule exact alarm permission in Android 14. Like, if your app is using schedule exact alarm permission, you have to ask the user to grant you the permission. In the past, the system will grant you automatically, but in Android 14, you have to ask the user to grant you. So it will check, if your app is using this permission and then scan your activity or code, if your app is also asking the user to grant you permission. If you did not ask, that means your app could have potential issue. Then the Play console will notify you, hey, your app has an issue perhaps related to the schedule exact alarm permission, and it will affect how many % of install you should fix it. So there's some gates on the Google Play console to help you. And I think last week, there's also one more improvement in Google Play console in Vitals. It's like, in the past it is in pre-review check, so it's only appear in when I submit it. So if I have multiple issues in different submissions, I have to click through them one by one. Or if it is in the pre-launch report, because pre-launch report is also bound with Android release. That means I have to go through the report one by one to see the issue. Now we have a centralized place in Play console called Google Play Android Vitals to have all the issue related to your app, no matter which release, in the same place. So like, there is the pending intent mutability, the example I mentioned. The Google Play console extract your app, find your app had this problem and notify you here. And perhaps your app is having some other issue, so it could display at the same page. So this is like a one-page summary for you to know what is going on with your app, especially about the behavior change. We have been working with the Play console engineering to add more and more checking in the Play console. So currently it's not perfect. It will not check all the changes in Android 15, but we are adding more and more checks. So if it's passed, it doesn't mean your app is perfect, just you didn't catch it only. So testing is really important. And something more important than testing is plan early. Don't do it when it approaches the deadline. And one more thing is don't do it after the pay policy enforcement, because like after the pay policy enforcement, you must target Android 14 or above. That means if there is a behavior change, it's either you set your Mesh SDK to Android 13, that means Android 14 users are not able to download your app, or you release an app even if you know it will be breaking in Android 14 device. So that's not a good thing happen in the real world. So make sure you plan early and fix early. That's my time, but I would like to hear more like what are the difficulties you have, and if you will submit, if you want us to do something to help you, what that will be. I have some time left before I go to Q&A. No one? Yep. Sorry, I'm
literally just started testing our app. Everything has always been right up to the action bar. All the other stuff just so is it a quick way of putting it back down to start with, or give us time to redevelop it?
Let me go back to my microphone. Yep. So the question is about edge to edge. So currently, let me go back to the edge to edge. Yep. There is a change in Android 15. If your app is targeting Android 15 by default, the available area for your app to use will be bigger. So I know it may be a large effort for developer to adopt. So is there an easy way for developer to migrate, or how developers should face these changes? There are a few ways. So number one is if you are using our material component or Jetpack Compose, we already handle the window inset for you. So like you do not have to. Ideally, I'm not. Yeah. So in case if there is a but, let me know. But you should not be actually no code change should be required if you are already using material component or Jetpack Compose for this edge-to-edge change. But what if I am not using the material component or Jetpack Compose, I'm using some other framework? Then you have to make sure you take care about the window inset. What is window inset? If you remember a long time ago, the camera used to be outside of the screen. I think starting from 7 years ago, the camera start to be inside the screen as a pinhole. So there will be like the screen side have a area, display cutout area that's similar for this one. That's an API for you to get the display cutout. I know a lot of apps also hard-code the height of the action bar or navigation bar, but that's not a good practice. Always use our API to get the attribute about what is the size of the display cutout and handle that. And I would say, luckily, in Android 15, I think there is still an opt-out mechanism. Say, if that is really difficult for you to handle this edge-to-edge changes, you could opt out in Android 15, but eventually you still have to do the migration by Android 16 because I don't think the opt-out option will be still available in Android 16. Yep. Did I answer your question? Yep. Any more feedback? Not feedback, then I go to Q&A. Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to ask about. Yeah, it could be about testing or about the behavior change or the rationale. Yeah. Or if not, I am hosting the office up. Yep, here.
I have a question. I think in Android 14, you like the predictable back thing.
Yep.
Remember that? I remember that it was set to be mandatory at some point, but I haven't heard anything about it since. And I have seen only a handful of apps that support it, and all of them are developed by Google, if I'm not mistaken. So, what are your plans on predictive back?
I think it is already enabled in Android 15. Yeah. That's also why when I talk about the changes, there are a few stages of targeting the newest version of Android. Yeah. Ideally, I also strongly encourage developer to do this in phase one. I could give some example. If you remember in Android 10, I think we have the storage permission, scope storage permission. Like your app could only ask for a scope storage. You could not ask for all the file access in Android 10. When we launched this, we tried to launch it in Android 10. If I remember correctly, should be Android 10 or Android 9. We received developer feedback, so we eventually withdraw the change to make it optional. So predictive path could be similar, like, we want to launch it, but we receive feedback, so eventually it may not launch, or we make it an opt-out option or opt-in option in that version, but it will come in the next version of release. So just to make sure that the developer have enough time to adopt the changes.
Because we haven't started yet. It's a module. Right?
Yeah, I think it is enabled by default in Android 15 already. Yeah.
Yeah, already talks about the step. So to summarize, it'll only affect you if you've opted in to predictive back.
Yeah, but I know that, but I remember like reading something about it mandatory at some point? Like you have to opt in.
There's no current plans to make it mandatory.
Okay, that's a relief. Thank you.
Yeah. It's like,
When is your office hours?
yeah, right after this session, yeah, I will be at the office hour, so you could come to me, yeah, if you want to talk more about your individual cases or some other question about the Android platform. Good. Any other questions? If not, then
That's one interesting case. So several years ago, Android changed it that you have to, when you do stuff in background, you have to show a notification. Yeah?
yep,
So and then later, also already 1 or 2 years ago, now the app and developer have to ask the user for permission to show notifications. And now, when we as a developer do not ask for this, then when we start background tasks and show this notification, it will not be shown, but it's still working. So it's a bug in the system, I think.
it's a.
Or at least you can, if you not ask the user for permission for the notifications, you can run things in the background and try to show this notification, but it will not be shown from the system.
Thanks for yeah, I have to repo this issue to make sure it is. But yeah, I don't think so. The rationale is
Yeah, it's not so important now.
no, yeah. I still have to. The rationale is the app should not be doing something without the user consent. So for a long time, there are a lot of apps reading, for example, reading your gallery or reading your location in the background. That is like
Yeah, I know.
not protecting the.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, I know you know, but let me also explain to other participants. Yep. So that's the rationale why when doing the background task need a visible component in the screen on the screen. Yep. So notification is one of the visible component, or if you are an active window, you could do this or some other way to make it visible, just to make sure the user knows you are doing something. Yep. That is the rationale. So yep, that's it. And I see you in the office hour. You could come to me. Thank you.